So hi, Kirsty. I would have a few questions for you.
Yeah.
And the first question that I wanted to ask you is if you were to explain to others in your own words what ADHD is, what would you say to them?
I would say that um it's like a storm, and like it's like someone has a storm in their head, or like a tornado where all their thoughts are like being spun around, and they can't put them into like wee filing cabinets like everyone else. Like people that don't have it, they can sit down and they can focus on one thing and they can work out that one thing. Whereas people with ADHD, they may be focusing on that one thing and they might hear a noise or they might see something like, oh, I remember. Their brain goes, oh, I remember that, and then their brain just jumps from piece to piece. So it's very disorganized and chaotic and
Yes.
nowhere near calm.
Okay. Yes. And do you remember when and how you were told that you had ADHD?
Yeah, I was diagnosed in first class in primary school, and they copped on as in I wasn't sitting in class. I was always moving, and the slightest thing would distract me.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, and then I had to go through about a month of tests with Ross in college, and then I got diagnosed then.
Okay, thank you. So Kirsty, which part of everyday routine has been the most challenging to deal with the condition being part of your life?
Most challenging, well, the younger I was, it was getting out of bed and remembering to take my tablets, and then just trying to sit still and stay focused and trying to be organized. Like for me going to school in the morning, I had to organize the night before, or my mum would have to organize the night before. The stuff's just sitting there ready for me to grab. Because with a side effect of the tablet is depression and anxiety, that I would lie in bed until the last minute because I wouldn't want to go to school for it. And then it's also like trying to just learn your everyday life because it takes time. Learning takes longer for me as ADHD because it takes me so long to get organized in the first place and get started than it does a normal student.
And Kirsty, you've mentioned about sleeping, how it can affect the sleeping routine. What can you tell us about that?
It's hard to fall asleep because your brain's on overdrive and it just repeats everything that you did throughout the day like a endless movie. So then I used to go like 2 or 3 days without sleep and still have energy to function.
And you, how do you explain that energy reserve? That this is not the normal energy, but this is
It's the energy from the ADHD that just kicks in. Like you have no control over when it kicks in or if it not to let it kick in. But like I could be tired one minute and then the next minute I'm fine.
Yes.
Bouncing off
You
the
used a
walls.
very nice comparison as a solar panel.
Yeah.
That is your extra energy
Yeah.
that kicks in. What would you like others to understand about how ADHD affects learning?
That for them to take a little bit of extra time and less pressure, because people with ADHD, we don't function well under pressure because we get stressed out, and that to be patient because it does go to take that wee while longer for them to get the work done because they get distracted so quickly.
Yes. And Kirsty, what are your positive experiences with it? Do you have a way of using it to your advantage? Any interest that you have? Can ADHD be of help to you in that sense?
It can be of help. I used it to my advantage in when I did my childcare course, because like, with children with additional needs, I did my projects on my own ADHD and how it would affect children and how it affects adults, and also someone with ADHD can also notice it quicker in a child than an adult can because they've been through it. So I can use that to my advantage when working with children in childcare.
And you've done your PLC course.
I've done some of it, but I just have to go back and finish 3 classes now because I got stuck because of COVID.
Because of COVID,
Yeah.
yes. So you are planning to go back to it.
Planning, yeah.
Yes, that's very good. Perfect. And Kirsty, what is your ADHD to you now? what category would you put it under? Is it more as a challenge, opportunity, or something else? And maybe other people would have labeled it differently before in the past.
I label it now as like a mental disability. So the thing that it only affects me mentally, but I have control of it. So I know I know how it affects me and how to stop it. But when I was younger, it was classed as an invisible disability, which it's not really, because it doesn't affect my ability to do anything. It just makes me slower at doing something. My reaction time a bit slower, but other than that, it's fine.
Yes. And what advice would you have for other young people or others in general with the ADHD?
Listen to the doctors. Take the medication they prescribe, because the longer you take the medication, they'll tell you then to lower your dose yourself and come off it for the summer. And when you take the medication constantly and then you come off it, you see your wee tics of your ADHD. So you see that you move a bit too much, you chat too much, you don't like you see what your ADHD is and how it affects you when you take your medication and then you don't. And also, don't listen to the people that bully you over it, because they're just jealous that you have more energy than them.
Very good. Thank you, Kirsty.
You're welcome.